It's about a mile wide and as black as you can imagine, and it's coming straight for us.
I never saw the tornado. It took her. I'll miss her to the day I die.
I picked my head up and I remember looking in front of me and there's destruction. I looked to my right and my left and everything I once knew was gone.
I remember looking into her eyes when I put her in that ambulance. Think about them big old blue eyes.
Sometimes I forget about it, try to let it go.
You know, it's hard, but I'm getting there.
Because we all are hurting. You know, there's been so much destruction and pain, but I know all of us, if we look, we can see the beauty in it.
And welcome to That Night in April. What you're about to see, stories that show just how strong we Arkansans are. Stories of hope and so much more. Where I'm standing here in Mayflower, the storm 1 year ago came right through here. I'd be right in the middle of it. And the trees still point the way toward Valonia, which is where we find Dawn Scott and Ed Buckner.
All right, Craig, thank you so much. And of course, we are honoring and remembering everyone who suffered that night in April 1 year ago, almost to the hour now,
almost.
Ed. And 16 people died, 2 of them little boys. April Smith is their mom, and we spoke with her recently.
Yeah, that's right. She lost both of her sons. She's a Valonia mother, and Ashley Blackstone has this report.
The pressure was so extreme.
Raw memories.
The mountains in front of us, and I see the tornado. It's about a mile wide and as black as you can imagine, and it's coming straight for us.
Each flashback triggering pain.
I remember my pants getting sucked off me.
But also hope.
Like my last memory with the 4 of us was praying.
April Smith, mom to 2 boys, 7-year-old Tyler and 8-year-old Cameron.
I just miss them.
It was Sunday, April 27th, church day for the Smith family, and a foreshadowing from Tyler.
He looks at me and he says, Mom, he said, if I go to heaven, will you miss me? And I said, well, yeah, baby, I'll miss you. And he said, well, how long will you miss me? And I said, well, every day until I see you again. And he said, well, don't worry, Mom. I'll be watching over you.
Within hours, life changed forever. April, her husband Daniel, and their boys thrown hundreds of feet. Their 4-bedroom brick home in Valonia wiped completely from its foundation. Daniel and April, the only survivors.
I didn't hear my kids. I didn't see my husband running for me. I was just alone. And in that moment again, I cried out to God and I prayed.
April didn't see her husband for 5 days. Broken bones and fractures kept her in the hospital for weeks.
It was like God just met me on the dirt when I prayed. I didn't understand it, but I just had this peace and I knew it was going to be okay.
A year later, that same confidence still intact. While it's been a roller coaster filled with treacherous lows, one thing keeps her going.
They're in heaven. They can't get sick. They can't get on drugs. They can't get hurt. They can't get disappointed. They're just waiting on me. They're just waiting on me, and they're safe.
Waiting in heaven, a prediction from God, April says, spoken through little Tyler, one she calls a blessing, knowing God was preparing her.
I am so thankful for the peace because I couldn't make it without it. And to be honest, that's the only way.
So on this anniversary, a day filled with such emotion, April chooses instead to celebrate her boys and look to the future. She and her husband have plans to eventually expand their family.
What a beautiful story that I'll get to tell them of their big brothers and what they've done here on earth.
Beauty from ashes, from a woman laced with an unbreakable faith, praying her testimony renews hope for others who are grieving.
Because we all are hurting. You know, there's been so much destruction and pain, but I know all of us, if we look, we can see the beauty in it.
Obviously, a very strong woman whose faith is what's carrying her through. And I just would like to add, so many hundreds of residents in this state kind of have that exact same attitude.
Yeah,
they're going to get through it.
So much respect for her and so much respect for so many of the people in this town. We're on a slab right here in Valonia that was once a house, and you can see them for miles and miles and miles, some choosing to rebuild, some not choosing to rebuild.
Most not, looks like, yeah.
So much hurt, but again, people are healing, and that's what's so beautiful about watching this story unfold 1 year later. We're going to send things now to Craig. He is, of course, covering the same topic in Mayflower tonight.
And Dawn, for a husband who lost his wife of 41 years living on his own now has been harder than he could ever imagine. It has meant a huge adjustment as he fights through the pain. Our own Marlisa Goldsmith paid him a visit and has that story.
Relax.
Learning to adapt
Take it easy.
to life as a solitaire.
Just having a hard time learning to live by myself.
Donald Greer's life all changed in the blink of an eye. It was a Sunday, April 27th, 2014. An EF4 tornado rips through Mayflower, instantaneously leveling homes caught in its way and killing several, including Greer's wife.
I would say between Mayflower and Maumelle, that's the bullseye.
As soon as I got in there, I heard sounded like somebody was sandblasting the door. And I guess that went on for 20 seconds, and the door caved in and hit her and hit me too, put me in the hospital, and it took her. Riverwood Memorial Gardens, 41 years. I met her up in Center Ridge.
She was the love of his life.
And she's buried right there by that pine tree. I stop by here about once or twice a day. I can't help myself, you know, I miss her.
He never has much to say.
What else is there to say? I'll miss her to the day I die.
It's a hard reality, knowing that Mother Nature was the force behind losing his wife.
I think about it.
And incredibly tough for Greer to return to River Plantation. But on this day, he faces his fear and takes us there.
The tornado came across this hill right here, took out those 4 houses down there, and about 5 of them here.
Here at the River Plantation, many families are beginning to come back and start the rebuilding process. This was Donald Greer's family home, but for he and his family, they say they just couldn't come back.
I think I've got a key here to fit it.
Now, Greer spends most of his time here.
Tongue and groove, yellow pine.
In the process of building a new home.
This is my bathroom here.
For him and his son.
And then that's my living room.
And he's paying attention to detail.
I didn't want sheetrock in here, I wanted all yellow pine.
And building it exactly how he always imagined his dream home. And this time, installing a safe room.
There's not a tornado gonna come through it.
That is sure to weather any storm.
But this door is real heavy. It's a good 3 inches thick.
Piece by piece, the finishing touches will be made as Greer remembers his past while welcoming new memories.
Marlisa Goldsmith telling that story of a man soldiering on. One of the videos that surfaced that night was of a man carrying a child to safety. It was seen all over the world on CBS television. Coming up tonight, that man and that child are reunited on this special. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute.
Don't step in that poop.
In the moments after the storm here in Mayflower, one man came to the rescue of a young girl who was the daughter of one of his best friends. A remarkable story and video that has been seen by so many people. Tonight, Phil Buck brings those two back together. Oh, we can't wait to tell you this story.
Keep your eyes upon me. Hear me? I'm getting chill bumps right now thinking about it. And I'm thankful that we serve a big God, and he put me where he needed to be.
He's deceased. Although sometimes he may want to, Nick Naylor will never be able to forget the night of April 27th.
It was a pretty crazy night. I don't ever want to go through it again. I remember looking into her eyes when I put her in that ambulance, and they was big as $50. And I see that all the time. I think about them big old blue eyes.
Lord, you're gonna take care of this child. I know you are. We put our faith in you, God.
But 1 year after the storm, Naylor and Grace Boozer, the girl he carried to safety that night, are as close as ever.
Do you get scared about tornadoes?
I'm scared of thunder and lightning, too, but I play in the rain.
It was scary because, you know, I knew she was hurt bad. I could feel her little old bones kind of cracking and popping as I was carrying her. And I knew it was bad, but I knew God was going to see her through it.
Sometimes I forget about it, try to let it go.
And while Grace has amazing perspective for her age, she still acts like a normal 5-year-old, too.
If there was one thing that you lost that you could get back, what might that be?
My pillow.
Your pillow?
Yeah. I got a little ripped.
You got another pillow now?
Yeah. I got tons of them.
Oh, good.
And that laughter serves as a reminder to her family just how lucky they are to be here, together.
There are saints among us, not only Mayflower, but in Valonia. Let's go back to Ed and Dawn.
The EF4 tornado, Craig, was on the ground for 45 miles, so obviously not just Mayflower and Valonia that were affected.
Yeah, here's a story of some other towns that are still rebuilding 1 year later.
I'm Laura Monteverde here in Saltillo, a small community that took a big hit from last year's EF4 tornado. The twister cut a 2 to 3 mile path through this area. Luckily, no one was killed, but more than a dozen homes were completely destroyed, including this one behind me, wiped off the foundation. But the community did bounce back. In less than a year, they were able to rebuild nearly all of those homes with just one left to go.
I'm Kevin Traeger on Deer Drive in western Pulaski County, where the rebuilding continues 1 year after the tornado. About 20% of the homeowners on this street have put their property up for sale and left the area. Those who stayed tell me there's still a long way to go with cleaning up dead trees. We did speak with one man who has planted 30 new trees in the past year. He and his wife say they're not going anywhere.
Of course, the deadly tornado took so many buildings with it, including a Valonia church.
Yeah, but you know, the Sunday after that night in April, the congregation showed up for service at the only place left, a concrete slab. And we'll have that story coming up.
Perhaps one of the biggest cornerstones for Arkansans affected by the tornado was faith. Many people turned to their church for strength and community. But what about the people who not only lost their homes, but their place of worship?
Well, THV 11's Dan Grossman tells us they rebuilt just like everyone else.
When you see that what has happened here tonight, it just shakes you up even
A
more.
well-defined, tightly wound tornado.
Life tends to be an interesting teacher.
All night long. This is a deadly night.
6 confirmed deaths in Faulkner County alone.
1 is dead in White County.
Because it's not until after the test.
And the first time there was a lot of damage and a lot of repair. This time everything was just gone.
Early reports of devastation in heavily populated areas.
The lesson that can sometimes only be taught in the darkest of places.
He described it as a war zone. He said downtown Valonia is gone.
Is learned.
I think you learn a lot about who you are, though. Your resolve is tested. You know, just because the building's not here doesn't mean that we aren't.
Matt Rawthatcher knows he's learned more than a few.
It's one of those frightening and exciting things all in the same breath.
So do the more than 50 congregants.
And I know you guys are like, oh, I could tell this dude's speech every time. Good, that's the point.
That listen to him preach each Sunday at the Valley Church.
It's nice to say that the church is not a building and we're the people.
The same church that only 7 days after its walls were wiped down.
This is a confirmed tornado that has done quite a bit of damage, we're hearing.
Looked up.
Us celebrating on the slab the next Sunday was just an example of a clean slate, starting over.
To say the last year has been unsettled would be generous. The auditorium of the Valonia Primary School they call their sanctuary, and empty classrooms that neighbor it prove that.
It's probably our 5th location that we've moved in the last year, and it's just every week is a new location, a new place.
From the city's fire hall to a local barbecue joint, the church has called just about any suitable open space in Valonia their home. Drawing from what was.
I loved being the church that was right here on Main Street.
To cope with what is.
This was just a place that we were. It wasn't who we were.
All the while, still learning life's greatest lesson.
Valonia,
it's really hard
yes, Valonia, you're in the path of this dangerous tornado.
A year after its test.
It gives you a whole new perspective as far as what really matters. And it's not the stuff, it's not the building, it's not the homes, it's not everything that we might have lost. It really is holding on to each other and going out and being a purpose bigger than yourself.
It's in your name we pray. Amen.
On March 19th, the Valley Church closed on 10 acres of land off Highway 64. They'd been working for about 9 months to purchase that property, and I know they're really looking forward to it. It's going to be their permanent home. And obviously, they've been through a lot.
The whole year has been hard for so many people. We just visited with a man who owns acres, hundreds of acres here just beyond the subdivision. He spent the past year cleaning up. He lost 150 head of cattle, just got those replaced last week, just got his home rebuilt. And he's saying they really need some help. And I think that's important. Here we are on the 1-year anniversary. We can't forget this community or any of them that need some help because there's still a lot of cleaning up to do.
Yes, much more coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Stay with us.
Back in Mayflower, that night in April, let's talk about El Paso, what happened there. A neighborhood street lined with homes, many members of the same family inside those homes. Mariel Mose tells us that story.
We really should not be here if you could understand the devastation of what we went through.
For Tina and Robert Chambers, describing what happened can only help us understand so much.
Your entire house and everything you know, and see your car flipped up in your kitchen.
But seeing the reaction of their daughter Madison, who with them lost it all.
It's hard for me to tell her, don't be afraid.
Gives us an idea of the pain they're left to bear with.
She's convinced it's going to hit again April 27th.
This is where the tornado had its last grip of ground after tearing up a 41-mile stretch across central Arkansas.
You can still see the snapped off trees.
This is also the area where the 16th and final person died from the storm. Tina and Robert's aunt, 55-year-old Paula Blakemore. She died when her mobile home ripped from the ground.
Here is where my mom's triple-wide mobile home sat. There was nothing left of it except the straps.
Her daughter Danielle still accepting the reality of her loss.
It's just an emptiness inside that no one can replace, and every day is a challenge.
And a year later, Danielle decided it was time to see the remaining scraps of her mom's mobile home.
Only God knows why.
Metal entangled in the trees where the Chambers home used to stand.
I had them lift the blanket up so I could identify her body and make sure. That's something that'll stay with me forever.
The storm leaving behind more than just physical scars.
I'm on 3 anxiety meds now, it's hard financially and emotionally.
But the community gave this family hope.
There was such an outpour of love from total strangers.
The Crossroads Cowboy Church in El Paso rallied multiple churches to raise money for a new home for the Chambers family.
It's one of those times when you get to cross the denominational lines and all those things and join together with other brothers and sisters in Christ.
Hey, brother. They might have thought they were just giving us a place to stay, but no, they were giving us a home, and that means a lot to us.
With a roof over their head again, Paula Blakemore's family is finding strength with a new perspective.
Think before you get mad, think before you do things, because there's no promise of tomorrow.
And today, Paula Blakemore's family got together at the gravesite for a balloon release, and inside each balloon there was a message that they hoped would get to her in heaven. Just to my left, back here in Mayflower, there was a balloon release for Mark Bradley, who was killed at his mobile home just about 200 yards from where I'm standing, and they, too, observed that night in April in their own special, quiet way. Each of the red balloons shaped like a heart. There will also be trees planted in his honor here in Mayflower and in Little Rock because he worked for Little Rock Parks. We'll be back with more of that night in April. Stay with us on THV 11.
You know, a lot of children are very afraid of thunderstorms, lightning, tornadoes, but imagine as a child having to witness this destruction, Ed.
That's right. Macy Jenkins tells us the story about how one school is rebuilding.
It was Sunday afternoon. We had a big thunderstorm, and then we heard that a tornado was coming.
And then I heard that the intermediate school was destroyed. And I was kind of sad because it was gone.
I was scared, and I was sad because I wanted to go to that school this year.
Almost ready for little voices to echo down the hallways, and then this.
It was obvious that, things were going to be delayed.
Months of construction erased.
So it was just a bit of a heartbreak, but every cloud does have a silver lining.
You don't get a chance to build the same thing twice, not very often.
Future Principal Andy Pennington takes me inside to see what's taken 10 months to rebuild.
This is kind of a multi-purpose room.
He's excited to give back to students who've been through so much. Spacious classrooms, computer labs, and art rooms. Outside, a secure courtyard and possibly the most important space, a safe room.
This whole building here, it's massive.
Adjoining gyms and room enough to fit all 800 students. Back inside, Pennington shows me an added safety feature. Up above, a catwalk with a bird's eye view of the action below.
Right now, I'm above the hallway and the classrooms here at the school. I'm standing on concrete that's 4 inches thick, and it's an easy access point to heating and air.
These concrete hallways, the one part that survived the storm last year.
This will be a sign of our pride, and this will be a sign of rebuilding. This is a sign of Valonia Strong.
It's another piece of the puzzle back together again. For fourth graders Caden and Alora, it can't come soon enough.
I always wanted to be in 5th grade because I like lakus, like I want to have a laku.
That day, just around the corner.
And they plan for it all to be done by the first day of school come August.
School still comes around.
Yeah, it does.
Normalcy school still happens, folks, you know.
Life still happens.
And that's well put, Dawn. That's what's going on here. The folks are bouncing back, rebuilding. So many of the new homes behind us are going up. And on a personal note, I mean, I have not been here since the storm, and it's hard for me to come to places like this because, you know, our job is one thing. We're so focused when those tornadoes are happening. But to still see some of the debris and the damage, it's truly heart-wrenching. But to see those new homes popping up, folks walking up to you saying, glad you're here. You know, come give us a little bit more help. We still need some help. That's what it's all about.
It sure is. And I, of course, had an emotional moment. I had been here just shortly after the tornado hit in the early morning hours. And seeing it then to now, there's been so much progress made. So proud of the people here and in Mayflower. So much respect for them. But they still need our help, and we don't want to forget them. We thank you so much for watching our special news broadcast that night in April, and we want to dedicate this broadcast to the 16 people who lost their lives that night in April.
Nice.